So in the last week, something weird happened. On March the 12th, Daryl Stingley released Trials Morales.
Rockin' designer to my feet. I'm a lion, you a sheep. Rhyming to elite. Effortlessly gliding through a beat. I promise you it's beef. If I'm sliding through the street. Firing until you laying, dying in the street. Still got the iron on the seat. Why you trying to compete? I inspire these niggas. They tell you different. They lying.
March the 16th, Wenxin released Controlled Descent. And guess what? They are both classics. With peculiar timing, we got two of the best parkour videos of all time, and they perfectly complement each other. One all about ascents, and the other all about descents. Incredible work from both. And I'm sure myself and Hugo, who is my guest today, will not be offended in the slightest if you go and check out these videos and completely forget about this podcast. Videos of this caliber aren't going to get views and likes and shares. They're going to get essays written about them. They're going to be studied, man. That's the level of creativity and production here. Anyway, I'm pleased to say I've got another Northerner with me today. We had a great chat. Keep it locked. Listen in. Okay, and we're back. Episode number 26, I believe, although number 25 hasn't come out yet. But if you're listening to this, it will have come out, I think, I hope, I pray. Had a few issues with the last one. I was talking with Georgia Monroe, the legend that is. We had a really good chat, and hopefully that'll be already out, and we are speaking in a very meta way right now. But today, yeah, I've got Hugo. How are you, Mr. Knowles?
Yeah, doing good. Excited to be on the podcast.
Good. My first query actually is about Swahili.
Oh yeah.
Because I was looking through your Facebook videos and I saw that you took a trip out to, was it Tanzania?
Tanzania, yeah. I lived there for 3 months.
3 months, damn. And did you pick up some Swahili there, or did you learn it kind of beforehand, or tell me about that, because that's pretty mad. That's pretty mad.
Yeah, so I learned the sort of basics. So where I was living, it was a charity project through ICS, International Citizen Service. And basically you go and you take part in a project in a very remote, very isolated, very underdeveloped, to use sort of international development terms, community, who have not really had any contact with anyone outside of their community before, which means absolutely no English. So in order to communicate with anyone, I had to learn how to speak Swahili, and more importantly, read Swahili. So I learned the basics. I knew how to say hello. I knew how to ask them like basic questions and answer them. So like say my name and where I was from. And then picked up a few bits and bobs sort of here and there in my 3 months over there.
Yeah, I was impressed. I'll give you that. I saw you kind of a video of you walking through this village and speaking to the different people on the way, and I was impressed, man. That's cool. Is it somewhere you'd want to go back to again, do you think?
Oh, $1 million question. I'm gonna say no. It was a cool experience, and like I learned a lot from it, but I would not go back. And if I did go back, I wouldn't go for the same reasons. I go for like tourism, because I spent 3 months in a mud hut in a village of mud huts, and I don't know. I feel there was more that the country had to offer, but what we were doing was very important. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you felt you made some positive change there.
I certainly hope so. I keep in touch with some of the people that I worked with, and because they're in the country, it's easier for them to keep in touch like via phone with the community. And yeah, it sounds like everyone's doing well. So I hope so.
Good man. So today I I wanted to pull you on because you've been doing bits in the sort of research field of parkour, and it's sort of crept up into my attention span over the last year or so. So I'm just curious. I wanted to ask you more about what you've been doing in the parkour research area, and also about a few different facilities you've been to and worked at. So we're going to go through that, and I want to begin with your PhD study that you helped with via Sheffield Hallam University. So tell us a bit about that, because I actually missed that because I was going to get involved, but I missed it. So go for it. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I am very quickly checking the name of the guy that ran the study. It's either Ben Stafford or Ben Strafford. And I'm just going to double check so that everyone's got the details right. Ben Strafford, yep, cool. Mm-hmm. So Ben's a researcher at Sheffield Hallam, and he sort of researches the sort of biomechanics and like physical aspects, so like sports science aspect of parkour. He's done some studies before about, I think, jumping and like the forces that are sort of spread out as you land. Mm-hmm. But this one was more into how parkour can be used to improve the performance of team sport athletes, so footballers, basketball players. And this initial stage was broken down sort of into two bits. So the first one was a speed course, very simple, nothing like the level we'd see at like Project Underground, like a very simple one, because the idea was that parkour people would complete it and then team sports athletes would complete it, and the sort of scores and the efficiency would then be measured against each other. So there was that, and that was measured. We had to do like a timed sort of run, and then we also did, I don't really know how to describe it, like I guess quantitative data measurement, so measuring how far we could jump, how fast we could complete like a sort of T-shape thing. You had to run to a cone, run to another cone, run to another cone, like and run back.
Like an agility sort of
test. Yeah, exactly that. And then like strength measurements, so how much grip strength we had, how far we could jump. I don't think those results are out yet. I think it's sort of been a bit delayed by COVID, but that was really cool. That was sort of my like second dip into the parkour research world. So
and were you taking part in that as well? How many people were taking part in it?
I don't know, actually. I'd guess around 20. So I went with some of the Leeds community. So I went with, I know David Nelms was there, Adam Dorr from Lincoln was there, some of the Hull boys, Ryan Kane, and I think the Grimsby boys went over the week after, and the Sheffield lot too.
Big up all these boys. Big up all the northern
crew.
Big
up the northern community, and I mean, I was just taking part as a like participant. I think someone had mentioned it in like the Leeds chat, and I was like, that sounds cool. I got nothing on today, can I come as well? And they were like, yeah, the guy's just looking for as many people as possible. So,
So I guess the results are to be confirmed at the moment.
Yeah. Still waiting to hear back.
Well, I mean, this must be a huge space. I was watching some rugby yesterday, and I was looking at how they were, flying all over the place, rolling, getting hit from different sides, and I wonder how good their kind of spatial awareness is and how good their floor work is. And also I was thinking, I wonder how much that could be improved or helped if parkour coaches got involved. But until we sort of break down the stigma of like parkour, like people are not going to take it seriously, especially maybe massive rugby blokes.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I think there's definitely space here. Like I can imagine parkour consultants, going to different sports and teaching people about mental process and how to move better. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I mean, the movements we do in parkour as well are almost like the foundations of movements. Like, well, I'm sure we'll get to this a bit later, but like the research I do relates to like performance art and theatre, and there's a very similar vein of movement, or there is a vein of movement that has similarities that we've been talking about a little bit in Flynn Disney's like Aspiration group. Big up Flynn.
Big up Flynn. Yeah.
About Feldenkrais, and he sort of looks at like what the foundations of movements are as children, like how we move, how we want to move. and how we create safety and how we learn by like sort of extending out of safety and then coming back. And so the two sort of relate. Like, I mean, you see kids like playing on the playground and you can see parkour, but you just know that they haven't got the words to explain that because it's just playing. So I genuinely think that like parkour is like a foundational movement. And as well, if you look at like monkeys and cats and lemurs and stuff and how they move, it's the foundation of movement for the biology that we've got. So I like to think it would be beneficial to everything. But I think we need, like you say, we need to break away from this parkour thing. And I'm hoping that studies like the one that Ben did will, like extend that and make it a bit more valid in the sphere of other sports.
And just while it's in my brain, it's slightly tangent, but I've had this like video idea of making a drama piece of, and it's hard to explain without it sounding cringy, but I've had this idea of like a parkour dramatic piece where there's someone training like by themselves, and every day this group of lads like in a car rolls past them and is yelling like abuse and like parkour and all this and starts taking the piss. And this
do
one,
a backflip.
yeah. And maybe worse, like maybe throwing stuff at them or something like that. And this one practitioner is just like there, just trying to do their own thing, maybe not very good. And I just want to have this kind of story where, that practitioner starts getting better and better or something. And then eventually, like, one of the lads who was bullying them gets out of the car and is, like, getting all in their face and stuff. And then they just start doing incredible movement and it just, like, blows them away and just, like, I don't know. I have this, it's not very well formed, but I've just got this idea of, like, something to squash this, in my opinion, horrible, pervasive perception of parkour that kind of wasn't helped by The Office, you know. So yeah, maybe if anyone's up for doing some acting, that'd be cool.
I mean, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
I study theatre and performance, so that's sort of my jam. Like a story of like resilience through parkour would be really cool, and like yeah, I'd be down for that. We'll make that happen. Watch this space.
Okay, because you know, that's another area that is you don't see as much. You know, we see raw movement compilations and show reels and these sort of things and tutorials, but the drama space and actually like having stories acted out in parkour could be like huge. Like, imagine like a theatre performance with just about parkour people or something. That'd be awesome, man.
I'm going to shout out someone here, David Banks from Glasgow, who does what you're talking about. He does parkour performance. I had a call with him the other day because we have very similar like research interests. And he's like a freelance theatre maker, I'll say. And he's done shows about parkour. So he's telling me about one where they're at a spot and there's maybe 4, maybe 5 parkour practitioners, and what happens throughout the performance is the audience watch and they're never told in English what parkour is. They get told 4, maybe 5 times a definition of parkour, but in another language. And then after that definition, one of like the practitioners will act out what that means. So it might be the efficient A to B, and like the practitioner will just bomb it, and then the other one will cross and cross and cross. It might be parkour for like being strong to be useful. So he was telling me he'll like get a balloon, draw a face on it and say it's one of the audience members, and say to one of the practitioners on the other side of the spot, you've got 10 seconds to get this balloon and save poor, I don't know, Margaret in the audience, or I'm going to let it off. And so that adds that sort of like emotional investment in the movement. So he's got a website, but he runs Ukemi projects as well. You might have heard of that. He does the Ukemi card game and the card to the city and stuff. So, but yeah, cool guy.
Yeah, shout out to him. Quick thing there, and I don't want to stir the pot or anything, but I was a bit confused with the Ukemi cards because I know that word in the context of it's lost me.
Like falling, like it's judo style.
Yeah, but there's Amos Rendeo.
I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah, apologies, Amos. But a legend like in the American scene, and he kind of was the first one I heard using this word and actually talking about it. So Do you know much about why he's using that for a card game, or is that kind of...
I don't know why he's using it. The thing is that like the card game is one part of Ukemi. So Ukemi was like a wider project he set up to sort of spread parkour. I don't know too much about it, but like on the website, like he shares a lot of blog posts, and like writings about the city, about parkour, about interactions that people might have between civilians, between security guards, between police, and they've sort of gradually like branched out into like coaching and games and stuff, which is where the cards came from.
Card game,
but I don't think it's got any relation to Amos's Ukemi project.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Interesting. And going back to your degree, so you're studying right now, yeah?
We'll say for ease's sake. I'm technically deferred till next year because of COVID, but I study it now,
And your degree is in
theatre and performance.
Yeah. So one thing that I was really happy to see is that you got like a scholarship, right?
Yeah, I got a $7,500 scholarship to research parkour within the context of performance and the performative, which is basically just if we watch something, is it a performance? So that's cool.
Yeah, tell us about that. So how? I mean, you don't have to go into the exact numbers and stuff, but how did you use that money? What did it flow into to help you with this project?
Yeah, so it's split up into two sections. So $6,000 of it is just paid, like it's payment to me for the research I'm doing, and I'm free to do whatever I want with that. So I was hoping to travel, get out to some events sort of across the world, like parkour events, meet some other communities. Obviously COVID has stopped that in its tracks, but I'm hoping to like get into that as soon as we can travel. So that's just sort of like money for me, but then there's $1,500 that's for project funding. So again, I was hoping to use that to go over to Gerlev in Denmark, the International Gathering, which I went to in 2019. Very cool event. Again, we'll talk about that hopefully a little bit later. And also to fly over to the States to an event called Move NYC, which is ran by... God, I can't remember what they're called. But it's NYC. Like Move NYC. Yeah, I'll find the name of the people that run it. But yeah, it's basically it's the Movement Collective. There we go. I didn't even have to search it up. Okay. Yeah, and they go on the roof. They have permission from this design school in New York to go on this huge empty roof, and build just a massive playground for a weekend. And people from all over the world, parkour people, dancers, yoga practitioners, anyone that sort of moves, comes along, has the freedom to play on this equipment, and then sort of at regular intervals throughout the weekend, people can lead workshops. And a lot of that relates to performance as well, and like how you can perform on these playgrounds. So I was very keen to go to that. I'm sort of hoping that'll happen this summer, but I'm not holding out hope. If not, next summer for sure. But yeah, that's all theoretical. What I've actually spent the money on so far is, like we said, Flynn's exploration group. And then I went to Obsidian Gathering, which was an online event hosted by members of the parkour community in America, specifically black members of the parkour community. And it was an incredible event. They basically had a panel of black parkour athletes, coaches, practitioners, including Georgia on the previous episode, and they spoke about parkour and the police and an experience of that, especially in America. And that blew my mind. We don't have that here. We don't have the fear. I mean, we're speaking as two white men, but even Georgia was saying that she's not quite had that same level of fear, that when you're training, you have to be aware that the police might pull up, and then you have to be aware of where your hands are, where you stood, whether you're threatening, the fact that a lot of these people can't train on their own because a lone black person doing something that's sort of out of the norm, even if they're a meter off the ground on a wall, even if they're not on a roof or something, you know, it's unfortunately begging for conflict, and that's not, you know, I mean, parkour is great, but it's not worth dying for, you know. But it was eye-opening. So there was that. There was parkour and police. Parkour as a career. So it was mostly coaches talking. Although Georgia, I think, said she'd had some experience with stunt work, and Brian Prince, who famously is the Predator in Predator vs Alien. That's his like, big thing.
Well, isn't he like 6'8" or something crazy?
Yeah, he's so tall. I think his Instagram is something like tall jumps, tall trainings. That's the one.
Yeah, shout out. Wow.
Yeah. But there was that. There was parkour as a profession. There was a non-American experience. So there was Georgia and Louise Ann Wong, both from East Spirit Concrete, talking about their experience.
I've had her on here as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Lee Wong, yeah.
And yeah, people like Daryl Stingley. Like, shout out to Daryl Stingley. Oh my god, what came out the other day? Trials Morales. Oof, that is art. That is art. That is what we need more of in the parkour like video scene. Incredible. Incredible.
Can I add in a quick rant? I'm not happy with how little it's been shared, especially by the big brands. I'm actually a little bit... It pissed me off a little bit, to be honest, because it seems like one of the most well-made parkour videos in a long time, and has a definite artistic edge to it. It definitely has a very well-considered message.
Yeah.
And it's something that is very rare to come by in parkour, and I was blown away by it. I thought it was fantastic, and yeah, I just didn't really, not that, you know, like, I'm not like expecting everyone that has to share everything. I'm not going to force anyone to do anything, but I just, like, for people that say they're for the community, please, when projects like this come out, don't sleep on it. Get it shared, get it out there, because this is what people, you know, really put their passion into. Yeah. And you can see how much work they put into it, and it was just, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl said he's been working on it for a year, I think. Yeah. And I mean, he lives and breathes his stuff, like, for the squad. That's you know, Daryl is, I don't know, but yeah, so him, Lou, Georgia, all talking about experiences outside of America. Lou, obviously, from Hong Kong, moved to London. Georgia, from London, with Jamaican family. And Daryl was speaking about when he travelled around Europe, and how, although the response was different, you know, police don't outright just pull guns on you. It was always him being targeted in a group of white people. I think they're putting them online at some point, so yeah, keep your eye out for them, because it was incredible. But yeah, the one that really got me, there was another talk about diversity and inclusion in parkour. So disabilities, like physical disabilities, neurodivergency, so people with ADHD or other like mental health conditions. I don't want to say problems, but conditions. And then LGBTQ plus members of the parkour community. And you know, that was, you know, listening to that and listening to these experiences of people integrating such huge like parts of their identity into their practice, and then how they share that out. I don't know, man. The whole event was just incredible, truly incredible, and really sort of a bit like you were saying with these brands not sharing, you know, all these videos. Like, there are parts of the parkour community we don't see. You know, black athletes. I can name a fair few, but I can name far more white athletes. And I'm not sure if that's because there are more, or because being based in the UK, we tend to have a wider, you know, there tends to be more white practitioners. I don't know, you know, what that is, but you know, seeing these like underrepresented groups spoken about, you know, trans athletes being spoken about, especially within debates of who competes in what competitions, which isn't just parkour based, you know. But like, I think there's an athlete from Manchester, Amy Harcourt, who's a trans woman, and she was not allowed to compete in the female category of the Tempest Online competitions last year, because her testosterone levels were like a tiny bit above the Tempest threshold. And it's a very difficult topic, because I mean, I have to pause to work out how I'm gonna, you know, say what I'm gonna carry on to say. But you know, there's biologically, and this isn't true of everyone, but biologically men tend to be bigger and therefore tend to be stronger than women. And it's sort of that debate of, is it a fair competition to put two different, body types against each other? Is there an advantage in either being bigger and heavier or even being lighter and perhaps more agile? So that, just having people like Brian and people like Daryl and Georgia and Lou, facilitating the space where these discussions could be had. That's where I think the culture needs to move towards. We need to move towards art, like Daryl's making, and we need to move towards discussions about how we can be inclusive. Because I've always seen parkour as a sport that's for everyone. You need a pair of shoes, and that's it. And even then, you don't even need a pair of shoes. There are kids in Palestine who do parkour with one leg on crutches.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, parkour was founded by a group of immigrants of multiple ethnicities, multiple ethnic backgrounds, and I feel we've slightly come away from that. And again, I'm talking from a British perspective, where a lot of our athletes that are big, we've got Motus, who are all white, I believe. We've got Storer, who's got Josh, but other than that, all white. Storm obviously used to have Blue.
Big up Blue.
Big up Blue. But, he's sort of dropped off the map, and again, it's very white. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the fact that there are athletes out there that are pushing these boundaries, I want to see more of that. I want to hear more people talk about that. I want to see it shared more,
I get you, man. And tell us a bit about because you've done some presentations recently as well. So tell us a bit about your presentations. I was lucky enough to catch one of them recently, which I think was I'm a little bit confused now. I've got Concrete Jungles or Parkour Nature of Challenge. I can't remember which one. I think it was Parkour Nature of Challenge, right?
Nature of Challenge. Yes. Yeah.
Talk me through those two, because I was really impressed with your Nature of Challenge one. I thought you did very well to explain parkour processes clearly and in a way that wasn't condescending to parkour. You sort of saying, you weren't holding back on and this is what we do, and this is what we're proud of, and this is what goes down. So you managed to portray that to a non-parkour audience very well, I thought. But anyway, tell us about those presentations.
Yeah, so I mean, they were both over 1 week. There was a conference being held at the University of Leeds, my university, where students could just come and present their work. And so I wanted to present, like Sam was saying, what parkour is and what the sort of challenges we do. I wanted to present that in a true sort of authentic light, rather than this sensationalized, people that do parkour just throw themselves at buildings and they're always breaking their legs, and type into Google how many people die doing parkour. I don't think I know of anyone that's ever died doing parkour. I think there might have been one person, I think, who was trying to do parkour very high up and who slipped, and I think that's the only one that's been officially attributed to parkour. But yeah, I mean, the main point of the Nature of Challenge presentation was, like you say, to share the spirit of parkour with an audience that didn't understand it, and perhaps not just didn't understand it, but had an understanding that wasn't correct of what parkour was. So certainly within non-specialist, so parkour audiences, a lot of what I try to do with my work and what I try and present is to educate people, because what we do, as we all know, is incredibly safe. There is a higher, I always get confused between the difference between danger and risk. There is risk. There's more risk jumping to a handrail than there is perhaps in just walking down the pavement, and I accept that. But the risk is very carefully managed, and therefore it's not dangerous. Sure, there's risk, but through training, through building up these challenges that I was talking about, we can do that. So one sort of aspect of what I try and do when I talk about parkour to non-parkour audiences is just educate people, because we know what we do isn't dangerous, but no one else thinks that. So yeah,
Let me challenge you there. Are you sure parkour isn't dangerous?
I think it'd be fair to say that every sport is dangerous. I think there's an element of danger to every sport, and I think if we're going to get really picky, there's an element of danger to walking outside. You know, someone could just walk up to you and punch you in the face. Admittedly, you're putting yourself in more dangerous situations by doing parkour, but like I said, the risk is managed. Like, I know if I'm jumping to, again, a handrail, I could slip out, you know? I could slip out either forwards or backwards. I could smack my shin. I could potentially fall forwards, break my wrist, you know? I could somehow slip up, hit my jaw and, like, break my face. Like, yeah, perhaps saying it wasn't dangerous was a bit far, but I think that the danger and the risk is very appropriately managed by starting at ground level and building up these movements. As, I mean, Stora sort of famously took that to Reef Culture Asia, didn't they? They went, yeah, we're doing this incredible stuff. You know, this is an incredible piece of art we're creating and we're doing incredible movement. But we've trained on the ground for, what, 12 plus years? We've trained these movements where the risk is as small as it can be. So, yeah, I think, parkour is perhaps more about managing danger and risk than just eliminating it. I think I was wrong there.
That's the only reason I caught you up, just because there was a video recently which was shared about quite a lot by Renee Scaventing, who made a video called Parkour is Dangerous, and basically explained and debated these points, and it was really interesting. And maybe this has come into my head just now, but maybe you could, if you think of the sea is dangerous.
Yeah.
Swimming in it is taking a risk more than having a boat that you're in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, with parkour, we're building boats to sail on. You know, we're not. If we just jump in and hope for the best and try and avoid the sharks, it's probably not going to work. But if
Who were we talking about the other day? Sketchy Andy.
Oh.
But yeah, that just sort of like throw it mentality. Let's just do it. Like, yeah. So, but building sort of vessels through which we can travel safely.
Yeah. Those vessels might be our tools of practice, our mindset, our skill set. Perhaps to. But we're still. But I think my point is, we're still on the sea. We're still, still in a dangerous place. It's just we're in boats. Essentially.
And I think that's a very important aspect of play, and again sort of comes into my like research. So Concrete Jungles was sort of about exploration and play in cities, and how that's sort of being challenged by not just the sort of typical security guards and occasionally like police response, but also in the way that cities are designed, in the architecture. So I talk a lot about like hostile architecture. The best examples of which are homeless spikes, put down in dry, enclosed areas to stop homeless people sleeping there, and skate stoppers, which, it's just a piece of metal that sticks up out of a wall so people can't grind along the wall. But sort of how these spaces are being changed in the name of safety. We need trying to think of a parkour specific example. We need anti-climb paint to stop burglars climbing onto the roofs and breaking in, Yes and no. Like, sure, I understand that people want to protect their property, especially if it's a shop or, for example, a university with lots of expensive equipment in. But if we look at places like Denmark, where the rules around play and what you're allowed to do in cities, and where the architecture is not perfect, but it's friendlier. If you look at the crime rates for vandalism, burglary and criminal damage, compared to the UK, Denmark is 54% lower in those crime rates.
Really?
And you can, it's not that you can feel the lack of crime when you go there, but like I don't know if you've ever been to Denmark.
I haven't yet. No, not yet.
It's incredible. Like Copenhagen. I never know how to say it.
Copenhagen, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there are parkour parks everywhere, and there are just spaces for play, big open spaces, And it's not like in the UK where a playground is fenced and this is where you can play and beyond that is the rest of the world. Like the whole city sort of promotes play and exploration, and the people I felt more welcomed, you know. I was like, I'm not from here, but right now because I am here, this is my city, you know. Play, and so that comes into play, and a lot of these things again are done in the name of safety, you know. Let's put it's hard because I understand both sides of the equation. Like, I'm going to give an example and then also flip it around. So like the very soft padded floors you get in kids' playgrounds, you know, I'm not saying we shouldn't have them because I don't want kids falling off and breaking themselves, but at the same time this almost like health and safety culture of everything is dangerous, rather than teach especially children, but you know, everyone, but especially children, how to manage risk and how to manage danger, how to build these boats, these vessels, you know, gain these skills that they need to manage danger. Let's just remove it altogether, you know. You see a kid climb a tree, get down from that tree, that's dangerous. Instead of going, you know, sort of asking them, are you okay up there, you know? How do you feel about going higher? If I was to ask you to come down right now, would you feel safe doing that, you know? Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff in parkour literature about this, about how, yeah, sure, parkour is dangerous or has dangerous elements, but that's one of the things that's so important about it, because if we don't learn how to manage risk, you know, when we're young, again, I'm sort of talking in the vein of especially like young children, if we don't learn to do that when we're young, how are we going to manage it when we're older, when we're in environments that might be risky, like, I don't know, even just going for a new job, you know, how are you going to know how to manage that sort of fear and like the sort of danger or vulnerability you feel of putting yourself out there and going, yeah, I'm the person for this job, you should hire me, you know. And all, you know, being prepared to fail as well. Like if you don't learn how to fall, going back to Ukemi, Amos, and that idea of know how to fall, you know, if you never, I don't know, it's a bit cringy, but if you never fall, how are you going to learn how to get back up, and how are you going to know what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've got myself sort of stuck there. I've gone off on a tangent.
No, I get you. I get where you're going. I get where you're coming from. Something touched on a little bit actually in the last talk, I think, was this kind of idea of elements of parkour spreading into your life. But actually, where and when and what does that look like? Because it's easy to say like parkour is in all my different spreads throughout my life, but it's when you actually look at it, I think it's actually really, really interesting when you go into the specifics, like you kind of just mentioned there. You know, an idea of when life knocks you down, kind of, is it going to be a huge surprise, or is it going to be something that you've experienced before in different ways, which might relate to parkour training? These are really interesting things to me as well. I wanted to ask you about some different places where I think you've either coached or trained at. So I would love a little bit of clarity on those things. So I was looking at Cloud Aerial Arts. Is that somewhere that you've been coaching, or?
Yeah, so that's sort of the facility in Manchester. It's a circus facility, so they do straps, they do hoop, they do silks, they do pole dancing. But that's where Project Z Parkour, that's the company that I've coached with, that's where they're sort of based. So I think the long-term plan is for a Project Z facility, you know, a gym, because we love parkour gyms, you know. But yeah, it's sort of based out of that at the minute, and that's where I coach. So. And
how often are you coaching there then? I mean, have you been able to coach over the last year much, or?
So I'm trying to start this. So between when I came back from Tanzania, which was the end of 2018, I was like, you know what? I really want to focus on parkour. I want to get my coaching qualification, and I want to get going. So I did that, and I coached with Project Z for about a year before moving to Leeds. And I didn't want to be travelling back and forth between Leeds and Manchester all the time for the sake of like a few classes. So although I've like officially like exited that contract, so I don't work for Project Z Parkour anymore, I'm pretty much always welcome to either just turn up and just be there. From a safety point of view, I've got all the DBS and yada yada yada. But as like a friend, I'm always welcome just to go. And
that's great, man.
Yeah, I coach occasionally on like a sort of self-employed basis with them. But obviously, COVID-wise, even when we have been allowed to go and travel and move around a bit, I've been a bit reluctant, and I've sort of like picked what I'm gonna do. So I know unfortunately I've not coached in a while, but hopefully this summer in Leeds we'll see.
In Leeds? In
Leeds, yeah. I'm looking at setting up again, sort of as part of the scholarship or with scholarship funding. I'm looking at setting up a sort of like grassroots coaching organisation in like the area that I live in. Yeah, I mean, I see kids just playing on the estate all the time. And especially during COVID when they've been home so much, and I'm like, I have so much to give, and so I'm just like, maybe I could just create that space where I am, so that's the plan. That's definitely the plan.
Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. I have so much to give. Yeah, I like that. And yeah, this is something that I am sneakily trying to influence the whole community about. It's like, you have so much to give. Please get into coaching, because you have a wealth of knowledge that only 0.00 1% of the population has, and it's just so it's wicked. That's my missionary mission, just spreading coaching slowly through the ranks. But
I'd love to see that. There's so many athletes. I'm not even going to try and name them all because that would be insane. But there's so many people that even if it was just once a year at a big event or something, I would love to see coach. So anyone and everyone, get coaching.
Yeah, for sure, man. I remember I went to the Oslo Movement Gathering in 2017, I think it was, and I helped volunteer there. And there was a few workshops done by Matthias Meyer and I've forgotten who else, but there was like a big parkour / tricking event. Yeah. Shout out to all the Oslo boys, Ansel, all those boys there.
Sander.
Matthias did like a workshop, and it wasn't like a super long full workshop. It was just a few ideas, and I don't think I could be completely wrong about this, but I don't think coaching is a major thing for him. But man, it was so good to just, be in the presence of someone that you admire and then just give you a few key ideas. Even just that, it was just like, yes, this is good. And some of those ideas have stayed with me, which has been great. And so, there's so much value that can be shared. And I like that idea as well, that, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to commit to a full-time thing.
No,
it could be once a year at a workshop. Get Dom out and ask him about how he manages to take impact. I don't know, just stuff like that. I think people would find it interesting because we all look up to these people. So
for sure,
we're going to listen. So what about the Street Monkeys Academy? Is that in?
That's in Preston, yeah.
Preston, yeah. Okay, so I get a bit confused with Preston. Is it near Liverpool-ish? Or is it close to Manchester?
Not really. So Preston...
Oh, sorry, Preston people.
Preston's north of Manchester. So if you have Manchester, if you go west of Manchester, you get to Liverpool. If you go north of Manchester, you get to Preston. And I guess sort of on the other corner of the square is Blackpool. So...
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of just like on the edge of Cumbria and like the Lake Districts and stuff.
Yes. Because a good friend of mine, Daryl, he lives out there, and I trained with him once or twice in Preston. I think he mentioned Street Monkeys at the time, and it was a while ago now. It was a few years ago, but now they've got a pretty awesome looking academy. I'll I'll say that.
It's sick. They've got a car in there. They've reinforced it. So they've reinforced the bonnet. They've reinforced the top and all the windows, so you can jump on it. But you can also play inside. They've got, I can't remember if it's an Xbox or a PlayStation. They got games console inside as well, so you can just sit there and like chill in the car. It's great.
What? That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, that was only recently that I went to the academy and, you know, got to sort of know them. I've never coached there, although like I'd love to do a sort of, you know, guest session or something, or if there's an event or something, I'd love that. But yeah, it was just such a unique like design, you know. I mean, we're quite lucky where we are with like how many parkour parks are about. We've got the Grimsby boys that have got them, Team Reality shout out. You know, we've got Nova down in Rotherham. We've got Greystone in Manchester.
I quite liked it, you know. I quite liked it.
I don't know. For me, it's sort of like I couldn't train there regularly. Like, there's not enough variation there. Because I mean, Greystone's ultimately a BMX and skateboarding and scooter park. So parkour's only been given a very small space. Yeah, you know, I don't know. I wish there was more. There's more potential, I think, and I think they're hoping to develop that. So I'm hoping to see that come. But yeah, obviously, and then Airborne over in Liverpool, and then Street Monkeys up in Preston. And I don't know. There was just something about the way that they'd set up their space that was so unique. Like, there were levels that weren't just you get to the top of the wall and it's flat, and you can jump to the other top like flat of walls. There was like, I don't know, like chutes. So like you'd go up on this level and there'd be like sort of almost like passageways around the back of things, and then windows that opened up, and then just bits that drop down into either sort of almost slides or just like straight drops. Yeah, just such a unique design. I don't know actually who designed it. I think it was, I mean, it was one of the Street Monkeys team. I don't know who it was. But yeah, just such a unique space, and one that I think I could return to any time and find something new and something really weird as well. Like there's potential for the sort of normal parkour movements, you know, big power lines, big jumps, you know, lashes, but also really weird, really techie stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to see what else they do. I've just heard as well that I think it's Bam and the guy that sort of manages Street Monkeys have just bought a second unit. I don't know what the plans are for that, but they're building something, and I'm hoping it's parkour related, but I guess we'll see.
Wow. I'm impressed, I have to say, especially considering, I mean, my knowledge is poor here, but I don't know much about their scene, so I'm really excited that they've got some some gyms going on.
Yeah, I mean they're primarily like a performance team. They do like promo shows for like car launches and tech and stuff, and they do the local like music festivals and stuff. And I think they've just got like a huge sort of recognition in the community because of that, and have branched out into coaching and stuff. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do. Really excited.
Great, yeah. Well, we'll see. All these northern facilities on the map,
Oh yeah.
And on that note, watch this space, listeners, because me and Dean Simpson have got a pretty huge idea that I've said it now, so it's going to be unleashed this year, and it might involve a lot of people. Fingers crossed. I'm slightly scared now. I've put it out there. I guess that, Dean, that means we have to do it now, man. But but yeah, it's exciting and kind of relates to what we've been talking about. So anyway, we'll move on. You've been to a couple of gatherings. You mentioned Gerlev.
Yeah. And
I also noticed you've been to the PK Gen Rendevous event.
Yes. Yeah.
Please tell me more about those, because I've yet to go to either of those, and I would love to. And tell us a bit about what the training was like, what the coaching was like, what your experience was like.
Wow. God, I don't even know where to start.
Start with Gerlev, just because we mentioned that before.
Yeah. Gerlev is incredible. Like, as a facility, it's like Ollerup. It's the same thing as Ollerup. They run a weekly gathering every summer, so you go for the whole week, you stay there, you eat there, you sleep there. It's in the middle of nowhere as well, so even if you wanted to leave, you couldn't really, but you won't want to because it's incredible.
Right.
And as well as that, they're also like a year-round school, so you can actually apply to be a student there, and you can major in parkour, and then do like a minor in dance or rock climbing, kayaking, and anything you can think of. It's incredible. But yeah, so IG, I don't know, man. I went on it on a whim. Like, I won an Interrail pass, which basically means you can get free free train travel around Europe.
You won it?
Yeah, I won that in a competition. What? And I was like, I'm gonna have to find something to do with this. And the guy that ran my level 1 course, Dan Timms, shout out Dan Timms and the Leicester boys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just popped up like as an event that I might be interested in because he'd put himself down as going, and I was like, a week of parkour? Yes, please. You know, took the train. Oh god, it took me 4 days to get there on the train. So I went Manchester to London, stayed the night in London, London to Brussels, stayed the night in Brussels through to like northern Germany, stayed the night there, and then train all the way to Copenhagen.
Wow.
So worth it. I don't even know where to start. Like,
tell us about was there any coaching elements to it, or was it just a jam?
No, it was like coaching. Like there were sessions. It was like being in a week of school, but it was parkour school, and you could sign up for anything. So they had guest coaches from like all over the world. Jiho Kim, for example, from Korea. Brandy Lard from America. They had coaches from Spain. Shino from Italy. Just this wealth of coaches with so many different like cultural experiences and elements to their parkour. Like we all know the Spanish style, for example, you know, and we all know, you know, the English style of very precise and, you know, stick it and sort of stuff. And just seeing all of that blend together into one. I don't know, like every day you'd learn from like 4 different coaches, and you just learn something completely different. So like,
cool.
I don't know, I did. Yeah, there was a guy called Jesse from the Movement Collective. He did a workshop sort of on like games in parkour and like how you can move stuff and create variation. Brandy, again from the States, did one on like survival skills and like spying and like, you know, how to like move silently and stuff.
Right.
Gabriel, I think it might be Gabrielle Harangi, but I'm probably butchering that name, but he did like a climb up workshop.
Nice.
Just like the sheer like variation and the amount of not just what I learned at the time, but the amount of exercises and ideas I could take away and not just incorporate into my own training, but my own coaching as well. I don't know. I think anyone that does parkour, regardless of whether you coach or not, needs to go. Like, I don't know, like, you know when you watch the really old school videos of like Storm Jam in London, and there's just all these people learning and jamming together. I feel like in recent years we sort of lost that. Like parkour had its surge, and then it's gone down a little bit, and now it's slowly creeping back into the mainstream. I feel that like sense of community where you meet hundreds of people from all over the world and just jump on a wall together. Like, I don't know, man. Like that was the parkour community sort of summed up for me. Like, it's been my profile picture for like, not my profile picture, my cover photo for like 2-3 years now, because nothing surpassed it.
I can see a massive smile on your face while you talk about it, so it must be pretty good. And something as well, like, I don't know, there's oh god, I've forgotten his name. A parkour practitioner I never had the pleasure of meeting, but who a lot of the community knew and who attended a lot of the international gatherings. He died at the age of between 30 and 33. And so every year they hold like a memorial service for him on the parkour park, and, you know, people can speak and share some memories and share some words and stuff. And it's just a chance, you know, sort of come together as a community and reflect on, you know, the lives of someone who sounded like an incredible person who, you know, just wanted to travel and share and learn. But the most powerful thing about that week was
when one of the chaps from Scotland said, you know what I really want to do now is I want to have 30. I think the guy was 30 when he died. He was like, I want to have, for every year of his life, I want to do a second of movement in memory of him. So as the sun was setting in this completely remote corner of the Danish countryside, 50, 60 parkour practitioners in dead silence just moved so gently and so carefully around this space for the duration of that 30 seconds to honour this guy. It was the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in parkour, and it just solidified like that, like community, and that parkour wasn't just jumping on walls. You know, I love that stuff, but it's not just that. And it was, I don't know, it was incredible. It was honestly incredible.
Whoa, that's even just the image of that is giving me goosebumps, man. That's crazy. Wow, what a tribute. Damn. So it sounds very special, man. It sounds like a special place.
It is. I mean, as well, it's got the first parkour park that was ever built in the world. Like, it's sort of, there's so much history there as well. But yeah, incredibly special place that I think I'm going to hold in my heart for like the rest of my life. And I cannot wait to go back, because I have no words. I know people that are listening won't be able to see this, but all I'm doing now is smiling.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah, incredible.
And what about the Rendevous experience you had as well? Was it similar? How was it similar? How was it different?
No, Rendevous, very, very different. Yeah, to me, having only experienced what PK Gen do through that, PK Gen are very much old school Yamakasi conditioning style. Like, we will cat crawl for 15 minutes to build like resilience, you know. And it was a weekend of the most like grueling, difficult, unpleasant at times, you know, parkour exercises I've ever had to do. It rained for like 2 of the days as well. Like, we were in the woods somewhere, just caked in mud, like head to toe, you know, just running around.
God.
Yeah, like it. I think it was different because with Gerlev, like you live and you live with the people, you eat with the people, you train with the people there, you socialise with the people there, you party with the people there. If you're like me and you're a bit broke, or you know you just don't want to be fancy, like you stay in a dorm room with like, I mean, COVID's maybe changed that a bit, but you stay in a dorm room with like 40 other people and you all just sleep on mattresses on the floor, like you are in there. Whereas Rendezvous, like you arrive for the day, and you're there, and then you leave in the evening. So like the community wasn't there, but like the sort of very old school building resilience was there. Yeah, I mean it was, like I say, grueling and at points very unpleasant. But again, the wealth of coaches from all over the world. And what like we could learn from them in very unfamiliar settings as well. I don't train in the woods very often. I used to like climb trees near my house when I was younger, and I've done a couple of like sort of flowy monkey style stuff, you know, where you'll pre to a tree and swing out or something. But training entirely in the forest for a day was a very, very interesting experience. And yeah, it was much more, I think, endurance based than technique based was Rendezvous. It's very much, we're going to push you to your limits, and that is how we're going to build strength or character. Whereas Gerlev is like more playful and like, we're here to learn and jam and, you know. Yeah. Both events I'd love to coach at some point in the future as well, though, when I've got a bit more experience. I'd love to adapt my coaching style to fit different events too. But that's a while off yet, you know.
Cool. And I guess we'll finish on that question then. What are your aspirations for your own coaching? Because I know you're level 1 qualified in the UK at the moment. But yeah, when you think ahead, where do you see yourself?
I think in terms of coaching, I don't just want to coach and that be it for me. like the research and the theory about parkour has always been such a huge part of it for me. So I think as my research develops, my coaching will develop alongside that. So at the minute I'm very much in this realm of learning through play, and in this realm of learning through the city. And so I sort of want to explore that and like how parkour builds relationships to the city. And also how parkour builds like community within cities that can be very isolating. But I think that's more for like the older classes. I think, you know, for the kids who I much prefer coaching, who I think have much more, perhaps not to learn, but like, you know, when you're younger, there's less inhibitions in your mind. You know, you're more free to do what you want. And we've seen some incredible athletes come who've started from that. I mean, Max and Travis, you know, from Motors, for example, both come through Scott Jackson and train hard, and they're incredible. But I think to put it very simply, just play, enjoyment and learning through play, and whether you then choose to go on to learn more about strength or about technique. I know that the two, you know, have an overlap, but you know, I think ultimately I want to create fun, playful environments where people can build community and make friends, because that's what parkour has always been to me, and I see no reason why it shouldn't carry on like that.
Wicked, man. Great. Is there any final shout outs or thoughts before we leave it there? Doesn't have to be, just, you know.
I'm going to shout out my community OGs. I'm going to shout out Tom Redfern from Project Z, Adam Smithy Smith, also Project Z, Isaac Gore, ex-Project Z but still very much a member of the Berry Parkour community, and Alex Burns. Those are sort of like my day one parkour people.
Wicked.
Sending all the love, hoping to train with you soon.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Hugo. That was great. I enjoyed that a lot, and I'm sure people will have enjoyed that too. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're only 20, right?
Yeah, I got a long way to go yet.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. But what I mean is exciting to hear you have these perspectives at such an age, man. Honestly, it's great. I think you've got some nice moments ahead for you, definitely.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Good. If you enjoyed this, listeners, then you can, if you're on Spotify, you can click the follow button, and it means that you'll get a little notification when new episodes coming out. I'm making 4 episodes a month. Fingers crossed. Well, no, not fingers crossed. I'm doing it. I'm doing 4 episodes a month. And if you're on YouTube, then you can subscribe and watch us talking, watch faces more than just words, if you like that, or don't have Spotify. But yeah, appreciate the support at the moment, guys. Really, really good. And I think I've just about booked in my guests for April, so I'm really excited to share who I've got. And yeah, we'll see. We're closing in on episode 30, and I think I want to try and get in someone. I was going to say special then, but all my guests are special. I was going to say someone that's very well known for episode 30, and every 10. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But from me, thank you, and Hugo, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you very much. Can't wait to hear the next ones.
All right, catch you in a bit.